Lunch break. There was little time for lunch in Theo's busy day. Fridays, Lem the chef went to escargot school, and the replacement chef often took countless extra minutes to accurately prepare the house specialties. Theo wondered why he had ordered something so elaborate anyway. He wondered why he had left the pile of work on his desk and the people waiting patiently outside of his office for a transition meeting. No, it's okay. I'm hungry. It's lunchtime. Most people eat lunch. In the middle of his oak veneered lunch table, there was an ornamental square indentation, and that is exactly where Theo had chosen to plant his glass of water. He coveted it as his only current consumable. The waitress had been gone for at least 8 minutes, and it seemed she was gone for good. He was pondering her absence and the cold blandness of the icy water when suddenly church bells rang outside in the square. This indicated the coming of noontime, and it would still be another 2.5 minutes before the strange things started happening. When the reverberation from the chiming finally decayed to nothingness, Theo rattled his glass without taking a sip. A stirring had been needed to thwart off the returning silence. Feeling a gust from behind, he turned, expecting the waitress, but alas, it was a gust only. From one quadrant of his brain, a signal was sent out to the other regions that it was time to continue worrying about the transition meeting, people waiting, and so on. And somehow, remarkably, the courier of this internal message didn't deliver. For once, Theo just sat there. Nothing else. This is when the strange thing started to happen. He looked at his water as if to take a sip, but he felt quenched without drinking it. Of course, he wasn't particularly thirsty, but he could feel the moisture in his mouth as if he'd taken a sip. It was a strange sensation, actually a familiar sensation, but slightly out of context. While contemplating what had just happened, he looked at the peculiar glass and saw that the meniscus was about a hair lower than it had been, as if the water had been depleted by a sip's worth. Then, to top it all off, he realized, undoubtedly, that his waitress was God. He almost couldn't believe it, but it all made sense now. The evidence had clearly pointed in that direction since the moment he had walked in the restaurant. He had just been too closed off to be able to see the obvious. The waitress, her holiness, must have vanished or taken a different form. That, in fact, is why lunch hadn't yet arrived. Oh no. All that stuff to be done in the office, and lunch is delayed. He assessed the situation and realized that God would never return. Yes, he was positive of that. She was gone. A moment later, she returned, though. She didn't have lunch yet, but she did have a glass of water. She said, "Oh, where did you get that water? I was just bringing you some." Regarding Fitchie. Artie Fitchie, we have learned, is successful. He is the beacon of success. There was a curious woman in Iowa who wrote to us and asked, regarding Fitchie, with all this success, is he happy? It's quite possible in this era that a person is successful on all accounts, but inside he's sad. Nope, Artie Fitchie is happy. In fact, he's beaming. The guy is beaming in excitement. Beam! Even after viewing a sad movie, Fitchie feels happy to have seen it. In fact, all of Fitchie's problems are diagnosed in his head as opportunities to practice patience, and thus they are sources of happiness. It could be argued that an equal amount of sadness is necessary for a person to recognize and enjoy his happiness. Nope, Fitchie only experiences the happy side of the coin, and he appreciates that coin. That coin is Artie Fitchie, and both sides are happy. And as much as a coin is a yin and a yang, Fitchie is happy with yin and yang. He would be happy with sadness or other problems, but he has neither. Fitchie noticed that one could say happy yin or happy yang, and noticing that made Artie Fitchie ecstatic with joy. Michael Gordon's work reveals a fine use of metaphors. Courtney Pickpuke, Baltimore Herald. I find this book hardly plausible. It's the Adventist of Garde, l'auteur. Gordon's writing is quite refreshing because he has avoided the use of metaphors. Stockney Courtpick, Baltimore Tribune.
He taught me on the strings of my guitar how to reach outside my head or climb out through an ear hole instead. He showed me how the swelling of a tone can help sort out the parts of mine that unravel like the brittle strands of time.